We're starting to see some people, which is good. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
So I'm glad that we have a few people with us already. So I think we're doing better than last night. Has anyone noticed I sent an email out with a link with the assignment already completed? Did anybody
Yes.
notice that?
Yes, sir.
All right, there's no stress then tonight, ever. Maybe a test night, I guess, but not tonight.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll be admitting more people as we go. So in the meantime, what everybody should do is take a look at the two sheets that I asked you to print out. One was the lab introduction, they call it introduction terms, and the other is the actual assignment. So that's what we'll discuss. And you can look that over while we're waiting. We'll have a few more minutes before everybody gets here, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Sure enough. I see some of us are still muted, and I'm trying to open that up. I don't know why.
Do you want us to stay unmuted?
No, it doesn't matter. I think we need to interact. That's what I would rather do anyway. I have everybody coming in somewhat muted, but you can. Everybody should unmute yourself, if you don't mind. Even the Auburn people. How's that sound? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody mute yourself if you would, and a few are not on video yet, and I don't know why. Trinity, you're back, I see.
Yeah,
Was you here last night?
I was here last night, but
Wasn't that horrible at 45 minutes, huh?
yeah, I cut it short.
Well, I'm now a pro. I don't know what that means, but they took the 45 minutes and now we can go 2.5 hours.
Nice.
Yeah, so that means our class goes to 9:30 tonight.
Great.
No, only kidding. For anybody that was here last night, were you able to get at least an idea of what we're doing?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So in your lab, and I will just talk in general till everybody gets here, there's a lot of material that's available, meaning there's a lab notes and then an assignment, and then there's photos. The photos would be of the different organs or models that we would be looking at in class. And last night I said that next week I more than likely was going to go to the lab and use the lab, and I did that today, and what a mistake. Everything is still in the closet, not open, so it makes no sense for me to go be in a lab where we're going to go and talk about items that you already have heard a little bit about in lecture. So we'll be doing everything from my office where I'm at right now, okay? So there are certain materials that we will need to have. For instance, you're going to need a textbook that would be your reference. So whether it's Ammerman, which is the paperback model, you can use this. Does everybody have access to an Ammerman or a textbook for lecture? I happen to have two. One is Marie, which is easier to read. This is just an anatomy textbook. They're all set up pretty much the same. What's in chapter 1 is the same in each book. And then the other one is called Tutora. And William Tutora is a little harder to read, but it has great photos and it has great charts. But it's a good reference if we're going into healthcare. So let me admit a few more people.
I have a question.
Shoot.
They gave me this textbook.
Okay, that's the same one. It's
Okay.
just the ring. The only bad thing about that is those pages rip out. Depends on how hard you are when you move them.
Yeah.
But that'll work. That's a good textbook.
Okay, I have one more question.
Shoot.
I got these. It's the lab notes.
Those are the lab notes. Those are the printed notes that are in the lab, so you don't have to print out the assignments. That's done for you. That was what?
Okay.
How much did you pay for that?
To be honest, I'm not sure, but I know it wasn't much.
Like 15, 13,
Yeah,
15? Okay.
somewhere around there.
Were there a bunch of them there? Like a stack of them? And did you go to the Gibbs campus or where'd you go?
I went to the Gibbs, but they had picked out my books for me, so it was already in a
Put
bag.
together? Okay. All right. Very nice. Okay. So we want to make sure everybody can hear me. And so everybody unmute yourself, if you will. And looks like most of us have been able to do that. Okay, I'm very, very happy to have like 18 people in here thus far. It's a lot different than last night. So last night it seemed like we had more issues, but then that always happens. So how many hours do you expect to expend studying this material?
No, it's C, it's T.
3+
Trinity.
hours.
How many?
No, in Siege.
3 hours a night.
Well, not a night, but maybe at least this week. So you need to be reading it over and to memory. You need to memorize all those bold terms. So in other words, what you're learning, these various organs and these different terms that are here on the assignment, you pretty much have to pull that out from memory when we ask you a question in 5 weeks. So the weekly quizzes are multiple choice, and you need to get 90s and 100s on them. And so I went and looked at that today, and we had a few people that had already taken 3 attempts, and they hadn't really mastered the material. So I opened it up. Now you have 5 different attempts. We'll take the highest. We're not always going to have 5, but I want everybody to get a start. Okay?
And you
So-
stated before that you're going to give us until the 23rd to take the quiz, correct?
Well, you can take it up to 5 times. What I do not want happening, like let's say you want to use 3, let's say you get 100 by your 3rd time, then save a couple for review when it comes time for the test. That might work. But what you cannot do in this class, and what is the kiss of death and the slippery slope of having problems, is not learning each section as we go. And that's the most important thing. I would love to see you guys maybe have small groups get together and meet at a library or do things like that. We used to do that on Saturdays, but now they're not even allowing us to do that. Okay? And so you may find somebody, we're going to have some breakout groups, and you may like somebody that you're interacting with, and if somebody lives close together, it may make sense to have a group of 2 or 3 get together and you share some information and ask each other questions and stuff like that. You can do that at a library, or maybe somebody has a large enough room at home where it'll work. Okay, but you got to spend some time. Is what you're going to need to do. All right, we have 20 in the meeting thus far, and it's only after 7. Hi. So we're almost getting ready. We got 24 in the class, and I expect a few from last night to join us. Okay? Any questions on anything thus far?
No.
Not really?
Nope.
Does anybody not know what they need to do as far as material that they would want to look at? So, like right now we're in chapter 1. And then next week it'll be chapter 2 in your book. 3rd week, chapter 3. 4th week will be chapters 4 and 5. Go ahead.
I do have a question. I was looking over the schedule again,
Right.
and I noticed that it says for test 1 that we have to choose.
Wait, he did it?
Go ahead. I'm
Can
sorry.
someone mute their phone, please? I can't hear.
Go ahead.
Okay, so like I was stating before, test 1, it says check calendar for open test date. So are we coming to you to take those tests?
No, I'm gonna, you know what happens when I go ahead and you are on your honesty level? What I'm thinking of doing is I'll notice it says proposed test dates, 2 dates.
Yes, I see that at the bottom. Hmm.
All right. I know people like to talk, so we may just open it up one night for 3 hours and let everybody take it at that time. See what I'm saying?
Okay.
So we may just do it where Monday night, see, it's not fair if we let Monday night take it and then people in Tuesday night's class are gonna ask Monday night what's on the test. That's
Yeah.
not gonna work, okay?
Okay.
So we're
Okay.
gonna have to work with each other. I'll know if you know the material. So
Okay.
if you're getting, let's say somebody's getting 80s on the quizzes and then they're getting 100 on the test, I'm gonna wonder why they're not getting hundreds on the quizzes. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, okay. So let's talk a little bit about the schedule. Everybody's with me? We have a schedule set up. We have 15 weeks. Every 5 weeks, we have a test. It's not cumulative. So whatever we learn in the first 5 weeks, you're going to need to know it later on, but we're not going to test you over that specifically. Okay? So the middle section is dealing with muscles and bones and that. And then the last section deals with neurology. The way the course is set up, 1/4 of your grade are the quizzes, and I'll drop a quiz. I want to have at least 10 quizzes to average. And then we do not drop tests, but you'll have 3 tests or practicals. Practicals are fill in the blank or multiple choice, okay? The grades are set up where 90's an A, 80's a B, 70 is a C. So that's how that's set up. All this information is in the course under my courses on the left-hand column. So if you click on syllabus, you should be able to find that, okay? All right. Now that we have most of everybody here, let's talk about directional body terms, anterior and posterior. So somebody help me. What do we mean by anatomical position? What does that mean? Does anybody know? And by the way, I'd like you to realize that participation is important. And I request that we have no one that would be afraid to answer. So we want you to participate. So what is the anatomical position? How would someone stand? Does anybody know?
Front
Yes.
facing?
Okay, front facing with your arms what? By your
Your
side?
palms facing forward.
Yes, exactly. So using those terms then, we're going to use anterior is front, posterior back, medial, Corey would be to the midline, and lateral would be distal or away, okay? Deep or superficial, superficial is on the surface, and deep would be inside. Superior, inferior. So for instance, where is my mouth compared to my nose? So my mouth compared to my nose would be what? Inferior. So we're going to be using these terms. And so in our assignment that we have, it asks you the blank is to the blank. What is always the reference point? And I tried to make this well known last night. When you have, for instance, the spleen is blank to the left kidney, what is always our reference point when we start talking about these two terms? It's
The midline?
always, which one? The second one. So let's take the first one. The wrist, my wrist to my elbow is the second term. So where is my wrist? It's distal. Does everybody see?
Yeah.
Okay. So the reference point is always the second. Somebody's going to make a mistake and reverse them. It happens all the time. Okay. But you want to use the reference point as the second. This term distal, proximal, only for arms and legs. So your legs and your arms, we would use distal and proximal. Distal means further away. Proximal means closer. So the knee to the ankle, that's an example that we have here. The knee to the ankle. So the knee is blank to the ankle. What would that answer be?
Proximal, whatever.
So we're going to go ahead and use proximal and distal. Which of those would it be? So the ankle is the reference. Is my knee closer? Is it more proximal? Or is it further away than the ankle?
Proximal.
It's proximal, right? Is everybody with me on that?
Yeah.
I'm going to attempt to do breakout right now. So what we're going to do is I'm going to set us in the breakout rooms. And so what we're going to do is take a few minutes. And what I would like you to do is on page 1 of this sheet, it has these different questions. And I'd like you to be able to go over that. So let me see if I can get us all on the
So
same
the
page.
shadowy trace bit.
Still here. I'm just trying to do this. You should be back. I can hear everybody, so that's good. All right, let me go ahead and see if we can get into breakout rooms. We have 22 people. We're gonna go and have 5 rooms.
No points for you.
And so you should be able to share information with each other. I'd like you to go in, get into your rooms. You should be able to talk with each other. And let's try that and do that for approximately like 5 minutes. Okay, so let's see if we can get that launched. We'll open them now.
You got killed.
So everybody, you should be in your room. In the first breakout room,
Can you hear me okay? I can't hear you though.
myself, I think I was muted.
Okay, I can hear you now.
Okay, all right, you're with us. So we just took everybody and we just put them into some rooms, but you're just getting with us, so don't worry about it.
Okay.
Were you able to look at tonight's assignment a little bit and get some information?
Not yet. I was actually getting it pulled up. I was
Okay.
actually studying my stuff for lecture, and then I realized what time it was, and I was
Oh,
like, I got it.
Okay, all right, well, what I did it, and I didn't do it last night, but I did it for everybody. We have everybody combined under like a, let's say a join 2 classes in one.
Okay.
even though we have Monday night and Tuesday night. And so what I did is I can send one email out to everybody in Monday and Tuesday night. So I sent out a copy of an old lab filled out with the information. And it basically takes these terms that we're using here,
Okay.
and it allows you to interact and put them over here on your worksheet. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. So
So-
I do see that. So I'm gonna get that printed out.
Yeah, well, I sent it, it's in 2 locations. It's under lab 1 at the very bottom, and I tried to move it up and it won't let me, but I sent it as an email to everybody, okay?
Okay.
So I'm glad you're here. What I'm gonna go ahead and do is see if I can see where everybody is on our breakout rooms. And let's see where we are here. So we have actually 2 people. So you can hear me okay, right? Now we have one other. I have another
Yes, I can
person
hear
coming in. We have 24 that should be in class. Okay.
Yeah, I was having technical difficulties at first, but it was using.
Yeah, we had a lot of technical difficulties last night. So.
Okay, and so we have a similar. So we have a similar worksheet as like the old copy that you sent an
Yeah,
email.
pretty much. It's, you
Okay.
know, maybe in a different arrangement.
Okay.
So, you know, it's pretty close. So we're going to go ahead and everybody should be able to see, we're going to finish their little breakout rooms in less than a minute. And we should be able to get back to where everybody's able to see me. So let's see if we're able to go ahead and do that now.
Okay.
Am I back in a meeting?
Yeah, we're still here. We haven't
Okay.
left. We should be coming back soon. Let me get this larger. All right, now I can go ahead. We're all here. Everybody should be able to start hearing me again. And let's go, and we're going to be closing the breakout rooms. Everybody should be coming back so we can talk. Okay?
Okay.
So we got like 60 seconds to get back together. And 40, 50 at this point. All right, for those that can listen to me, Tiana, I know you're with me. A few others, maybe Dominique, Justin, I guess you're with me. What we're going to do next is we're going to look at what are called regional terms. And so regional terms are dealing with certain parts of the body, and there's probably 30 terms there. And so what they're asking you to do is just say where they're at, but the information is on the note sheet. Everybody kind of see that? So it tells us, so we're going to go over that. Where else would I find this information?
In the textbook?
In the textbook, there's actually a picture, and it shows the different regions of the body. And so we want to go over those, and we'll do that shortly. And soon everybody will be with us. In just a moment, I would think they'll be with us. Okay, we should be getting close. Okay, so what we want to do is let's talk a little bit about these various body regions. This would be the page on the notes, and it's also page 2 maybe on your assignment. Is everybody here? Okay, so starting with abdominal, obviously that's pretty easy. We've used that before, and we're going to go and use that again. So abdominal is just referring to the belly or your stomach region. Acromial, when we start using this term, what I'm referencing is my shoulder, the front top of the shoulder. And if I raise my arm up, I have my hand on top of the acromioclavicular joint. So there's actually a term for part of a bone called acromial. That's why it's referenced as the part of the shoulder, okay? Antecubital is where? What's it say for that? Inside your elbow. Axillary. How do I remember that my armpit is axillary? Well, this is how you remember it. A. Armpit, you take your hand, put it in the armpit, that's your axillary region, okay? Brachial, this area of my shoulder, right in here is a brachial region. And so it's the upper arm as well. And we're going to use it with brachial plexus, and we'll use it with some other different anatomical, let's say, regions as well, or terms. Calcaneal is your heel. So the bone in your heel is the calcaneal region. Carpal are your wrists. And cranial is my what? Cranial is my brain or head. Digits are my fingers. Is everybody with me? Femoral, femur is the thigh. Okay. And as we come on down, glutes, you guys are sitting on your gluteal muscles, your lower posterior region, right? Your gluteus maximus. Is there anybody without a gluteus maximus here?
No.
I think we all have one, right? Okay. Inguinal refers to the groin, and lumbar is lower back. At this time, what I brought and what I thought might be helpful is I brought a spine. I was smart. Being a chiropractor, I wasn't that smart yesterday, but tonight I got a spine. So we'll talk about lumbar. So I'm going to hold this up, and we're going to take a look at these different regions. So basically, this area here, this is the occipital part or the posterior part. If I'm looking this way, it's behind. That's the occipital, and that's the second term on the right up there. So above the occiput is where the brain sits. The regions of the spine are cervical, thoracic is this area here, lumbar, and pelvic would be at the top of this iliac crest down to the pubic area right here. So when we say abdominal pelvic, we're going to be talking about the region from below the diaphragm all the way down to this part to the pubic symphysis. So we're going to talk about body cavities in a moment, and there's one called abdominal pelvic, and it's a large one, and it's basically below the diaphragm to the pubic bone. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that kind of helps a little bit. Mammary would be breast area. This area of my chin is called mental, and nose, nasal. Occipital, remember we just said was base of the skull. Oral, if I have an oral fixation, then that's oral referring to mouth. And orbital, orbit is circle, a circular area, and that's my what? Anybody? Eye. Okay. Otic is ear. And so if we talk now about palms, we're talking about this part of my hand. Patella, my knee. So the patella bone is actually anterior. Has anybody ever dislocated their patella bone? Does anyone know anybody that dislocated a patella bone?
Nope.
No? It happens quite a bit in football. And then I see people that may fall on their knee. And it's once you dislocate your patella, it then can actually slide out, and you can have problems with it in the future. So pelvic refers to it says hips, but truly the hips are going to come into this part called the acetabulum. So these terms that we're learning, what's there, 30 terms? We're going to, each week, we're going to be adding 30 to 70 to 100 terms. When we get to naming the bones, we're going to have to know specific regions, like this is the sacrum, and this is your coccyx. So right now, every one of us is sitting on your gluteus maximus, and if you're a female, you're sitting on your tailbone. How come us guys are not sitting on our tailbone? That's a question for some of you to answer. Why are the guys not sitting on their tailbone, whereas all the girls do? Any idea? Jamie? Justin? Leah? Anybody else? Anybody have an idea?
Is it because of how our hips are?
Yes, exactly. Girls' hips are what?
Wider?
Wider for the baby's head to go through. So with a wider pelvis, the tailbone sits at a different angle. William, good answer. So women sit on their tailbone. So a lot of times coccydynia, I didn't talk about coccydynia last night, but coccydynia is a pain in the tailbone. And so it's there's little ligaments. When the baby is born, what typically happens to the tailbone? Do we have any mothers here that gave natural birth?
Yes.
Yes. Did you fracture your tailbone?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you see, you already know a lot about anatomy.
Yeah.
Okay. So in other words, the tailbone, let's take a look. So when we're looking in here, the tailbone pushes in, and if this is pushed out, it would make for a larger opening here. Okay. And on some of the x-rays, like I had a really good x-ray of one of the ladies that I took last week. And if you were to take a look at this narrow region, this is a male, this is very narrow hips. Whereas when you look at the female pelvis, depending on the angle that you're able to see, it's a lot broader and wider, okay? So these are the things that we're actually gonna learn. My background is strong in anatomy and physiology. And when I was in college, we did comparative vertebrate anatomy. And then later on in chiropractic school, I also went ahead and we had cadaver work. And for some reason, it was enjoyable because I wanted to know how things function. So we're going to do two things in this class. We're going to learn to identify whatever this object that we're studying, and then we're going to have to know what the function is. But the anatomy determines the function. So the shape of the bone or the type of gland will determine what it actually does, okay? All right, I got off subject a little bit, but let's go to popliteal. Where's the popliteal space? Look at your notes. Where is it at?
The back of the knee.
Yeah, so when you put your hand on your knee and you lift your knee up, it makes a little pop or click. And the popliteal space is behind the knee. Okay, popliteal. So we're going to need to know that. There's actually, when you get to anatomy 2, there'll be an artery called popliteal. Pubic, remember pubic symphysis? When we talk about joints and these different joints, this is a cartilaginous joint, and this is the pubic symphysis. Then we have scapula, scapular, and that's the shoulder. Sternal is my breastbone. Tarsal ankle. Thoracic is chest. That's a general term. So if we start talking about body cavities, and I say thoracic or chest cavity, that's a broad. If I say give me a specific cavity in the chest, you would have to say what? There's two that I can think of. What might they be? Anybody?
Thoracic.
Thoracic is still like chest. It's a broad term. There's two other terms, like where is my heart?
Pericardial.
Pericardial. Don't be afraid. Pericardial cavity is where the heart is. Where are the lungs? What's the plural? So when we talk about lungs, the lungs specifically are in the pleural cavity, and the heart is in the what? Pericardial. Where's the brain?
Cranial.
Cranial. Where's the spinal cord?
That's in the vertebra.
Vertebral, or the vertebral cavity. When we talk about abdominal, we're talking about what? Below the diaphragm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and normally they just join abdominal and pelvic together. Okay, so the only other one we needed to talk about, umbilical. What's the region for the umbilical?
Belly button.
Belly button.
Belly button, yes. And then the last one, vertebral, it says, this whole thing?
Backbone.
Okay, so this is just plastic. So in the labs, what we had, and what you have in this course are pictures. So some of you are kinesthetic learners. I'm a visual learner. Most guys are visual, Lance. Are you not? You're not a visual learner?
I'm an
Why do you
auditory.
think women spend all that time in front of a mirror? Because men are visual, okay? Maybe that's not always the way it is. But there's different ways that we learn. So part of what I think I need to do is help you pronounce these words, and then you want to be able to write them down so that you know how to spell them. And if you can't pronounce it, you can't spell it, so you won't be able to use these terms when it comes time for the practical, okay? So what I would like us to do at this point, let's talk about the different planes of the body. How do we take an anatomical position? How can we cut the body in 3 separate planes?
Separate
We do
it from
that.
right to left.
You can, if you have a left and a right side, so in other words, if I take myself and I cut right through midline, through the nose, chin, sternum, and pubic region, I'm going to have a left and a right side.
Mm-hmm.
So sides means sagittal, SS, sides, sagittal. If I have a left side and have a right side, for instance, on the wall, can you guys see this on the wall? Up here, this is a sagittal cut midline through the body, okay? So when I'm looking up there, that just shows the right side, okay? And if it's mid-sagittal, it's right through the midline, but I could have a sagittal cut that's not even. It doesn't have to be mid-sagittal, it can just give me a left and a right. So you can take any organ and divide it right down the middle and have a left and a right that gives me 2 sides, that's sagittal. But if I take this and I turn it and I cut it like through the side this way, I have a front and a back. That's called a frontal plane, or what's the other term for frontal?
Dorsal.
Anybody?
No,
Vertical, ventral.
How
Is it
about
coronal?
coronal? So coronal gives me a front and a back, okay? And then we're going to look at, we may look at an organ where we cut across, like at the waistline. That would be a cross cut. So those are 3 different planes that we can cut the body. There's a picture in your book that reference this, showing the different planes that we are able to cut someone through the body. For instance, these planes in this book are shown right here, where the woman basically is cut in 3 separate planes. So it'll be sagittal, coronal, and transverse, or cross-section. But there's different pictures all showing the same thing. All right, what we would like to do next is let's take a look at this last page. The last page, where am I going to get all the information for what is in each organ system? Because we're going to start with organs, like for instance, liver, gallbladder, stomach.
Digestive.
What organ system are they in?
Digestive.
Digestive. And being that they're digestive, if I stand up, this area here is the diaphragm. This is hollow. So that's my thoracic, right? Or if we're talking about just the lungs, pleural cavity. And what was in the middle? I forgot. What was this part here?
The sternum.
Well, yeah, but what's supposed to be pumping, keeping me alive?
Your heart.
And my heart's in what?
Plural.
Pericardial.
Pericardial, thank you. So it's in the pericardial is what we have. So what we're looking at is we need to put them in body cavities as well. So the different body cavities we're just talking about: abdominal pelvic, pleural, pericardial, cranial, vertebral are none. Some of these various structures are not in a cavity. And so we like to ask questions on a practical about the diaphragm. Diaphragm separates between my thoracic and my abdominal pelvic. It's between the two. It's not in a cavity because it separates two cavities. Everybody follow? So if I asked you a question, name the body cavity, and I had a reference to diaphragm, and then you would say it's not in a body cavity, Dr. Byrne, right? And what else? Take a look at some of these various organs. Besides diaphragm at the bottom, what others are not in a body cavity?
Your kidneys?
Kidneys are actually not in a body cavity. They're behind the abdominal pelvic. And part of the sheet that I was just looking at earlier, let me see if I can find it. What's connected to the kidney? Henry, do you have an idea what's connected to your kidneys? All right, above them is the adrenal. Ad means next to, renal means kidney. So the adrenal gland is an organ also not in a body cavity. It's behind the abdominal cavity is what we're actually looking at. And so what I did is I sent everybody an email before class started with the information that's going to help you fill this out. But this same information is found where?
In your book, in the notes.
In the notes, and where else? So here's my notes. Where else would I find some of this material? In your text. So in chapter 1, how would I find, if I want to find, let's say, the digestive system? And while I'm looking through, this is a better picture. Do you see the plane, how the woman is cut? Can everybody see how she's standing? She's in what position?
An anatomical.
Okay, and if I cut her left and right and I have equal sides, it's a mid-what cut? Mid-sagittal cut. Okay, what if I cut her so that I get a front and a back?
Coronal.
Coronal. And if I just cut her across the waistline?
Transverse.
Yep. So in the chapter, in your textbook, if we look under some of these different organ systems, and every book is different. Okay, so for instance, here in this one, this happens to be Marib's book, okay, Marib. On this far right upper area, let me read you what it says. It says digestive system breaks down food into absorbable units, and it has in here parts of the digestive system would be the following: esophagus, correct? In the mouth, oral cavity, large intestine, small intestine, liver, pancreas, and stomach. So those are all part of the digestive system. So when you're looking here at what system, so liver, gallbladder, stomach, small intestine, large intestine are all part of the digestive, and the body cavity is abdominal pelvic. So everybody kind of follow? Okay. Why don't we look at spleen? Anybody have an idea what the spleen is in? Looking at your notes, because we have time to go over this right now. Spleen.
Lymphatic.
Lymphatic system, good. Spleen is in what body cavity?
I couldn't find it.
Okay, will someone else tell me?
Abdominal?
Abdominal, yes, it's in the abdominal cavity. Urinary bladder, part of what?
Urinary.
Okay, urinary system, and it's in the pelvic cavity. Okay, what about ovary?
Urinary.
Let's
Reproductive.
go
Abdominal
Reproductive.
Let's do
Reproductive?
reproductive. But
In
you
the
know
pelvic
what?
cavity.
It's in 2 organ systems.
Okay.
What
In the
else?
reproductive and endocrine.
Endocrine. So in other words, you're going to have estrogen and progesterone, which are hormones. That's part of the endocrine. So we're going to find that some of these organs are in more than one organ system. If the ovary in the female is into, what about the testicle or testes in the male? Same thing. It's in reproductive. And in this case, testosterone is a hormone. That's part of the endocrine system. So you want to make sure you have that down. All right, let's look at, all right, so we got uterus, part of the, which one? Uterus would be part of reproductive.
Reproductive.
Okay, and it's in what cavity?
Pelvic.
Pelvic. Very good. All right, what about my heart?
Cardiovascular.
Cardiovascular. And where is my heart specifically? What cavity? Pericardial. Thanks, Henry. Thank you. All right, what do we have for lungs? Lungs
Respiratory.
are respiratory, and what specific cavity?
Plural.
Plural. Now, what if I said just what general cavity?
Thoracic.
Thoracic, chest, something like that, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, thyroid gland. Where's my thyroid?
The endocrine.
Yeah, you're holding it. Nicole's holding your throat. What does your thyroid look like, Nicole?
Like a butterfly.
Yeah, how do you know about the thyroid? Help me out here.
Because I have a thyroid problem.
You have a thyroid problem. Okay, let's talk about things. In our class, over the years, and I've been teaching probably for some, if there's anyone under 20 years old, I've been teaching longer than you've been around, okay? And so I started teaching approximately back in 2000, and they have me doing anatomy labs, but I like anatomy. So this year, I don't know, I probably taught this class over 120 times over the last 20 years, but never in a Zoom class. You're my second Zoom class, all right? So I need interaction and help from you guys, and then you need to let me know what you need to know, meaning maybe there's things that I need to present or help you with that you're not getting in lecture. You need to use me in helping assist you learn the material. That's my job, okay? And so that's what we want to do in this class. All right, let's go and see what else. So thyroid is in what organ system?
Endocrine.
Endocrine, yeah. So it's going to make hormones. And what body cavity? Be careful. Be careful. What body cavity?
Oh, I don't know.
What body cavity?
I was saying
Cervical.
How about not in a body cavity?
cavity. Yeah.
All right, let's go to on the bottom of the sheet, on the right-hand side, if anybody has the sheet, body cavities. Let's go over these. The testes in the male, not in a body cavity. Bone, not in a body cavity. Does everybody kind of follow? Skin, muscle, artery, vein.
Not in a cavity.
Not in a body cavity. Here, pancreas, they say the pancreas is partially in and partially out of the abdominal pelvic, but definitely kidney is not in a body cavity. Does everybody follow? Okay. And then we have adrenal gland is above the kidney, sits on top, and that's not in a body cavity. Lymph nodes, and obviously the diaphragm is between what? Between two body cavities, right? It's between my
The thoracic and the abdominal.
and my abdominal. Very good. Thanks, Tori. See, I got everybody's name right under your picture. This makes it great. Isn't that neat? Okay. All right. So where were we? We were at thyroid. Now we're at pituitary. Where's my pituitary gland?
Your pituitary gland is in the endocrine system.
Part of the endocrine system. And then what body cavity? It's part of the brain.
Cranial.
Cranial. Very good. And then the brain is part of the cranial, and it's part of the what system?
The nervous system.
Nervous system, yeah. All right. Not only do we need to know the names of these different organs, we need to know, be able to identify them. So there's photos that are in lab 1, you know, of the brain, of the heart, you know, of the stomach, of the pancreas, of the large intestine, of the small, that you're going to need to be able to, you need to know what these things are. So you need to be able to identify the organ, and then you need to be able to, you know, tell us what organ system it's in, and then what its function is. Okay. So for the most part, I think we knocked this out. Okay. Let's talk about some of the things that might be frightening you about anatomy, whether it's lecture or lab. I want you guys to tell me what some of your fears are right now.
It's a lot of information.
Okay. It is a lot of information. What if you're, during the summer, I had students I taught in the spring and they gave me off the summer, but typically somebody trying to work 80 hours a week, take anatomy to lecture and lab, maybe take a calculus class, is that too much of an overload?
Yes.
Yeah. So in other words,
for an example, like I'm only taking anatomy in the lab. That's the
okay,
only
good.
class I'm taking.
All right. Well, a lot of you last night I mentioned, because on Monday night we have a lot of people that haven't had lecture yet. And then I had one student say, hey, Dr. Byrne, I signed up for a face-to-face lab and they stuck me in your lab. And you know what I told her? I signed up for a face-to-face lab and they stuck me in this Zoom class. So we're all in the same boat, okay? But I think it'll work. I think it'll be okay. What other anxieties might we have? Does everybody not have, does everybody have something that they can study from, like a textbook? Let's say you ordered a book and it didn't arrive yet. I know someone said they're not going to get their book probably till sometime in September. Go to the library. If you go to the library over at St. Pete College, you might be able to check out an old textbook. So some of these, if you'll notice, like for instance, this one is a 9th edition, and it's going to be as good as the 8th edition or 6th edition. I don't think the body has evolved that much that, you know, things have changed. So you can get an older version of, you know, just go ahead and check it out, and you can use it as a reference, and then, you know, obviously you return it. Somebody also went online and found an textbook for like $18. Was that somebody in tonight's lab? I'm not sure. Or was it maybe someone in Monday? Was it one in this, anybody in this class? Okay, somebody went online. I told them they needed to email everybody. It's easy to email the class. So when you go into my courses, you go under communication, you go over to where it says email or class list. If it says class list, there's a link, and the link will allow you to, you just click on it and it'll allow you to have everybody there. And you can just go to the bottom and you have to hit send email, and then you go back and you fill in your message to the class and hit send, and we get it, okay? You can specifically send something to one person. If you just, you know, click their name, then you can send it to one person. I used to send, and I like sending a lot of material out to everybody at the same time, but if somebody, you know, is asking me a question, I'm not always going to send that out. So don't be afraid to ask questions for fear that I'm going to embarrass you, okay? All right, so what is our objective for tonight? Learn these various terms. You got to kind of put them to memory, and you just cannot become familiar with them. So you gotta write them out, and then you need to look in the textbook. These textbooks, they cost you guys $200, or, you know, depending on how much you're spending. There's an outline in the back of each chapter, and there's also some test questions. So you can look at them. And the photos that are in each of these different chapters really help. Like if I didn't know, what the stomach looked like, then if I were reading in here, there's a picture of the stomach. So in other words, you become familiar with the material that's in the chapter, okay? It talks about some other items. All right, let's get back to lecture and lab. Does anyone not had lecture yet?
I haven't.
Okay, when do you meet?
Thursday.
Okay, and is it like a 3-hour or how long is your lecture class?
I believe it's 2 hours. We're going to either do it in virtual or we're going to be in the campus. He's giving us an option.
Oh, okay. Who's teaching?
I don't know how to say the name.
All right, is it on Gibbs campus or where are you at?
I believe it's Seminole campus.
Seminole, okay. So there's different ways of learning the material. I think having notes to read over is really helpful. And, obviously most of everything is in the lab course. So you get the information that you need. You just need to play with it or interact with it. Okay. At this time, is there any other questions that anybody has? What do you need to do besides study the material before the end of the week? Anybody?
Take our quiz.
Take the quiz, and you can take it up to 5 times because I'm generous this week. Okay. All right. And then what else do you need to do for next week for chemistry?
Read chapter 2.
At least look at chapter 2, but you need to either print out, look at the assignment so we have some understanding. If anybody in the Tuesday night class wants to, come to our Monday night class and listen in, I think we can have up to 300 people, so that's not going to be an issue, okay?
Can you go to Monday instead of Tuesday?
Well, if you can, as long as you're getting all the work done.
Okay.
We're going to have some problems because during the semester, Monday nights, we have a lot of holidays, like Labor Day is on a Monday. So guess what everybody on Monday has to do? They got to come to the Tuesday night. And then there's one Tuesday night lab date where it's some like professional something. And Tuesday night is closed. And then, we have a week where we're off Thanksgiving break. You guys get a week off for that. So basically what we're trying to do is cover a lab a week. And then after every 5, we have a test. Okay.
There's a Monday.
Go ahead.
There's a Monday night you can come in.
No, I wish so. Monday night is live online, just like what we're doing now.
So what were you talking about Monday then? Sorry.
That I have another course that is the same as yours. It's just Monday night. So in other words, I have a BSC2085 lab on Monday and one on Tuesday. Okay. So that's why they're merged. But what I'm saying is some weeks there will be a week where the Tuesday night will not meet because the school's closed. You come Monday. Somebody follow? And there's going to be like Labor Day where the Monday night has to come to your Tuesday night class. Everybody got that?
What if you cannot make it on Monday night and you're in the Tuesday class?
I'm going to learn how to go. Right now we're recording and you should be able to, see what we're actually doing. So that'll be fine. That shouldn't be an issue, I don't think. I just got to learn how to do all this fun, the recording part. Okay. So there's a lot of information. What I did mention, if someone doesn't have a textbook, you should still be able to work on it and learn some of this material. Okay. So don't wait for your textbook to come because you got to learn as we move along. Okay. Any other questions that you might have for me?
I have a quick question.
Shoot.
Are we supposed to know like exactly where like the liver, the lung, like everything is in the body already?
You're going to be learning that. You need to, if you look in, you're going to want to know that, okay? So in other words, let's go ahead and take a look behind me. I have, although I know so behind me we have a chart. And so obviously starting up in the cranial cavity, we have our brain. And then as we go from there, the next real big organs that we're going to have are the 2 in your chest. And they're obviously what? Heart and lung. So you need to know that your lung has a concave surface underneath. And the reason that there's a concave surface underneath is your diaphragm muscle has a rounded surface, and it fits right adjacent to the lung. And so you would want to know that that's the lung and that the muscle underneath it is the diaphragm. Now, some of this will be in those photos that you're going to take a look at in this lab. So there are about 25, I believe, photos that you need to open up and look at. Obviously, the heart has a heart shape. Stomach has a stomach shape. But what am I talking about? So when we get over here, our stomach has a lesser curvature and a greater curvature. And then there's an organ called the pancreas. What does the pancreas look like? Does anybody know? Pancreas looks like a pennant. A pennant is basically it has a long tail. So if I stand up, this area right in here below my diaphragm and at the bottom of my sternum, this is where my hand is. That's where my stomach is. On this left upper region, this was where my pancreas would be. Okay? And so where is my spleen? Left upper quadrant is my spleen. And this is a good question. What's on my right? The liver. And under the liver is a green organ that will have bile. So it'll concentrate bile and store bile. And so in the email that I sent you, it had, I believe, it had different functions. So I sent you the different functions. For instance, your liver produces bile. What stores and concentrates bile is the gallbladder. So the gallbladder is going to be underneath. It'll be a green structure. It's not blue like on my model, okay, or picture. Then what we're gonna have is the kidney is going to be this shape. And then the gland on top of the kidney is called adrenal. You might call it the adrenal, okay? And we need to be able to differentiate between large intestine and small intestine. And so the larger intestine is in larger diameter. Small intestine is going to be longer, but it's like 30 feet longer, but it's small in diameter. So are you going to need to know where the organs are? You kind of have to kind of get an idea where they are. So in their textbook, it'll show you where some of these are, okay? Does that help, Alexandra?
Yes.
All right, so that kind of gives you an idea where some of these different things are. All right, any other questions that we might have?
Just one that's, I guess, I came in a couple minutes late. I don't know.
That's okay.
How do you, sorry, I was on my second Zoom call.
Oh.
How do you go about taking roll for the classes and that sort of thing?
Okay, week 1 and week 2, what I'm doing is asking you to send me an email or tell us something about yourself, and then I'm going to go in and I have to take attendance. So in other words, I'm going to look and see who's taking the quiz and then who sent me an email, and hopefully I don't miss anybody. But so I'm assuming, and last night I assumed I had more than 45 minutes, but that didn't happen. And in the middle of our Zoom class, we went and it closed. And then I spent like an hour and a half sending texts to everybody, but we didn't have that problem tonight. So I'll just take attendance the first 2 weeks, and then I'll take it at the 60-way mark, okay? And that way I can tell if you're participating, because you'll be doing the quiz. I'll go in and I'll look at your highest grade, and I'll go ahead and post it for you under your quizzes, okay? And if you were late, Henry, the way the course is set up, there's 3 tests or practicals. 75%, every test is 1/4, and then the quizzes make up the other 4, okay?
Yes, sir.
Is how that works. So there's either a weekly quiz or a practical. And then after the practical, when you come back the next week, we start a new section. So there's
Thank
like
you.
3 separate sections to the class. Every 5 weeks is what we actually have.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Not a problem. All righty. I think we're about ready to go ahead and close the class for tonight. If you have any concerns or anything and you want to email me, do that inside the course. And we had 24 people show up. And I know at least one was from my Monday night. Who else is, how many were from my Monday night? Can you let me know? Maybe they already left. Okay.
I'm from Monday night.
Okay, you were my Monday night?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you pronounce your last name?
Formoyeza.
Say it slow.
Formoyeza.
Formelza. I'll work
Close
on it.
enough.
Crystal?
Christelle.
Chriselle.
Yes.
Okay, very good. My last name is Byrne, as if it were B-U-R-N. All right, so let's close out, and you guys can end the meeting. Look forward to seeing you next week on either Monday or Tuesday. And if you want to join us on a Monday night, that's perfectly fine. You really need to have the materials handy. I'm going to say the chem part is probably a little bit more, it's not difficult, it's just more information, and some of it is visual. So you need to have your textbook, and you need to, what you're going to definitely need to do for this next class is be able to identify these different structures. And if I talk about them and you don't know what they are, so maybe get into the lab photos for lab 2, the chem. It'll show you what a what a sugar molecule looks like, or what a protein or a fat looks like. That'll help us all. Okay, can everybody at least do that? That should be something that'll make it easier for you. All right, so let's go ahead and end the meeting. I'll wait for you guys to leave. And then if you have any questions, send me an email and I'll try and get back to you inside the course.
So how do we get to the Monday though?
I'm sorry?
I already asked this question, but how do we get to the Monday?
Okay, good question. Inside your lab 1 were 2 links. I went in and I renamed them, and I put it Zoom web class Monday night and then Zoom web class Tuesday night. Did you see that?
No, I hadn't seen that.
You probably only saw Tuesday because Monday already went. So there'll be 2 links. Yeah. So if you want to get into the Zoom, Monday night chem, lab 2, then you click on that Zoom at 7 o'clock and come join us. Okay.
Okay.
And make sure, so we need the materials just so all you're trying to do is become familiar. And the more that you look at this, the easier it becomes. Okay. Very good. All right. So I look forward to seeing you guys next week, and don't be afraid to take the quiz, and we'll go from there. Okay. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.